If your idea of a good wedding gift is a cow, you'll be right at home on this episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun with our guest, Lydia Tevis. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, root stock, feed stock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun. I am your host, Kay Castrataro, and as always, we are sponsored by Penlight for Farmers, helping you to create purposeful farm lives rich in time, energy, and abundance. And today I am so excited to introduce you to Lydia Tevis of Harmony Heritage Farm. She is fabulous. You're going to love her. Welcome, Lydia. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Oh, well, we're so
Happy to be
glad to
talking to
have
you.
you. So you do dairy sheep, which not everybody does. And I just find dairy sheep to be a fascinating thing. So why don't you tell us how you got into dairy sheep and your whole story? I'm going to take a
Okay.
cough drop, by the way, because
Okay, yes,
I got a
please
tickle
do.
in my throat.
Whatever you need to do. I understand. So dairy sheep for me were kind of almost accidental, really, with how I got into raising dairy sheep. I've just always had a love for sheep and wanted them since I was really little, but we lived in the city when I was 5, 6, 7, and just dreaming about having sheep and having farm animals and living in the country. Um, and my parents moved us out here to Southwest Washington when I was, I think 7 going on 8, or possibly 8, I forget. But anyway, we started out with chickens, was kind of our first animal, and then
So many people
rabbits.
start with chickens.
They're a great starter. Yeah, so a gateway animal.
Gateway
Yeah.
animal. They're like your gateway drug.
Yes, exactly. No, they're great. It gets you a good start and then makes you just want to try everything else. So yeah, we did chickens and rabbits, and I think that was it until finally I was ready. I read Story's Guide to Raising Sheep like 20 times. My parents were like, you need to know, everything there is to know about sheep, because of course they had no context, no farming experience
Yeah.
at all. And of course, neither did any of us kids. So I did all the reading I could, all the research I could, and they finally said, okay, we're ready. So they called around to a bunch of different sheep producers in our area, and Meg and Brad Gregory were the only ones that called her back, and they happened to have dairy sheep.
Uh-huh.
So they were like, yeah, we have lambs. We've got a bunch if you want to come look at them. And
So it
um,
wasn't necessarily I want to milk sheep. It
plans.
was more like I want sheep, and the only people
Right.
who got back to me were dairy sheep
Exactly.
breeders.
Yep.
So okay, so kind of a
Yep.
stumbling into it. Yep. And
Kind of
what
a
is it
stumble.
about
Yep.
sheep that have attracted you? Because, sheep have got the cute, cuddly look, but from anything I've heard, and that is the one animal that I haven't actually had a lot of, firsthand experience with, but they're not too smart. Like they're really adorable, but I've heard that they're not too bright. So talk to me about what it was about sheep that made you just latch onto them.
I don't know. I think it's kind of their spirit. So it's kind of like sheep versus goats are kind of like dogs versus cats. And depending on,
Oh,
your personality and just what you kind of mesh with, I feel like that's kind of the route you go. I'm finding that a lot with sheep and goat people. Like there's the goat people tend to have personalities that are more like mesh more with goats. And then sheep people
were
are
you gonna
more
say interesting? Were you gonna say interesting personalities for goats? Are you saying that goat people are a little
I
being
was
wild and
gonna say,
crazy? Because I
um,
have had a goat.
well,
I have owned a goat.
okay. All right, I'll be
So
careful what I say.
I'm like,
I'll be
oh, I could
careful.
see that. No. I admit that I'm a little bit of a strange duck.
No, so
I'm
I
okay with
feel
that.
like spunky and independent and smart, like intelligent, and just like the world is their playground, is like goat people. And then
Oh,
sheep are more, I don't know, they're calm, they're kind of reserved, they like their flock, they like to be surrounded by other people.
yep.
But maybe more like I could see like an introvert versus extrovert. Like sheep are more introverted and kind of just want to stay calm and keep to themselves and graze, and goats are more like always looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I don't know. I
really,
guess.
really interesting. Well, I'm glad I asked that question then because I wasn't expecting that answer. And
Oh,
wow, I'm gonna think on that. Anyway,
yeah.
so you got your first lamb, and
Mhm.
he was actually a ram. Yes, he wasn't a
So it
ewe.
was actually a ewe.
Oh, it
Yep.
was a ewe.
So
Okay.
I got a ewe, and then my sister also got a ewe because, of course, you need to have two when you have sheep. They need a buddy. So we both brought home some little ewe lambs,
Oh,
and mine was Grace after my middle name, and my sister Valerie's was Hope after her middle name. So you had
those
Grace
are
and Hope.
great middle names. They're beautiful. Grace and Hope. Don't we all
Yeah.
need that in life?
Yeah, my mom, she's so sweet. Yeah, she named us all. So we've got Hope, Joy, Love, Faith. Was Kyle? Oh, I guess Josiah. That sort of fits. But yeah, yep, she liked all those.
Uh,
Kind of in the era of when you would put, like peace, love, joy on your on your wall, or
yes,
yeah,
yes. Well, I mean, those are the fruits of the spirit, so
yeah,
I can see that coming out. Sure.
lovely. But yeah, so we had those two ewes, and then the Gregories offered to let us bring them back the following year for breeding to their ram. Which for me that was kind of a nightmare because I was so attached to this sheep. I just loved her to death. And when I dropped her off there, I was just like the most nervous mom, like leaving my child because I was just
Oh,
so bonded to the sheep and just loved her. And I'd have nightmares every night worrying about, if she was okay. And
oh,
um, but yeah, she was bred and they both lambed with twins.
oh.
Everybody did great. And I think I was told that I needed to sell those lambs because my dad was not quite ready to like grow the flock that much. And he was kind of like, this is a learning experience. Like you need to learn about having income to keep your sheep, like to continue to
Ah.
be able to feed them.
Oh,
We need
so
to,
he was teaching you to make it a business right at the very beginning. This was no
yeah,
like let's just have some pets and put them in the backyard and then
yeah,
get 20 of them and say, "Oh no, they're eating us out of house and home." This was from the very beginning. Dad was like, "No,
yeah,
no, no, sweetheart. These guys got to pay for
yeah.
themselves." Well, there,
Totally. That's funny. I never really
kudos.
thought of that because I just think of it as natural. Like, isn't that what everybody does? But
No.
that's a good point. Because he really did. Like, he is an accountant, so he
Yes,
had a
he was.
spreadsheet. He had a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and it was like income versus expenses right from the start. And it was like, oh, you're in the hole. Like, we got to sell some sheep. So,
Oh, yeah, no.
yeah,
Okay, so that all makes sense. And what a great foundation to start
yeah,
your farming career. Like to start it right off the bat as yes, it's a passion project
yeah,
and it has to be lucrative, like or at least
totally.
sustainable. It has to be
Right.
sustainable. Oh,
Yeah,
I love that.
totally. It's funny, I never really even thought about it, but yeah, that's why it's so fun, like talking to you, because I am like in my own head and like in my own little world so much up here that yeah, it's fun to have questions asked and really think about it. So,
This is what we do, and this is why I love this show because it really is a matter of we sit and we talk and isn't this how we make sense of ourselves and the world around us is in community. Like we
totally.
are all kind of sheep in a way where
Yeah,
we all need to have our little group
yeah,
and when we get outside of that group and get different perspectives, that's really good for us.
yeah,
So we're both sheep
so
and goats.
true.
Look at
I
that.
love
Sheep
it.
and goats. Oh.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love it.
sheep, and I'm wondering, like, you're starting with, nothing but stories. And so, like, stories is telling you how to grow your sheep, and that's great. But, what kind of a community did you have around you? Were you part of 4-H, or did you just kind of like, go rogue on this?
Yeah. So we really did kind of start out all by ourselves, and just really like self-taught, initially. And then we did hook up with some 4-H leaders in our area, that were doing sheep, and they had, it was called Fleece and Friends, and they do meat sheep and wool. I think they did some wool. I believe back then it was mostly South Downs and maybe some Dorsets that they had. But they really like helped me with the nitty gritty, like how to vaccinate and how to trim hooves and how to shear.
Yep.
I remember watching Molly, one of the young gals in the family, shearing her sheep on a stand. And they took sheep to show also to the fairgrounds, and they
Okay.
invited us to come with them and like pick a sheep, and they helped us get started with showing
Oh,
sheep
cool.
too. So that kind of just continued to like grow the love of like there's just so much to do and so much to love about sheep, and
Yeah.
all the different activities that we started to get more involved in. I would say the Spring Youth Fair, it's for us, it's Southwest Washington Spring Youth Fair, was like the highlight of my childhood. Just looked
Nice.
so forward to it. Everybody made it so fun, and you get all kinds of ribbons and awards. Um, Almost everybody gets first place, like in showmanship and stuff. Um, but then I remember because I had dairy sheep, so I think the following year, the first year we were showing the Irvin's sheep, the 4-H leaders sheep. And then the next year we got brave and brought our own sheep. And because we had dairy sheep and there were no other dairy sheep in the
Oh, you won
farm,
every class.
won everything. And we had like the
Yay!
ribbons, like big ribbons that's like, you know, champion you. And I just remember being like on top of the world because we were the only ones in the class. But yeah, it was great.
I love
Great
that.
experience.
The county fairgrounds are literally like a mile and a half up the road from my house. So
Oh,
that is
fun.
like every August, that is the one my kids and I without fail will spend at least one day at the fair. And I used to work
Oh,
a table there, so
fun.
they would help set up the tables and tear down the tables and do all that stuff. But now we
Wow,
just go and
yeah,
have fun. But I love to watch
nice.
the showmanship, and we'll watch the cattle come in, and it'll only be one breed. And so of
Yeah.
course that one cow of that one breed gets to be the grand champion
It's
of
the
that class, and
star.
it's kind of
Yeah.
fun, but the kids
Yeah.
do such an amazing job showing them. And my kids don't have livestock, which is, to my eternal chagrin. But
Oh,
single mom syndrome. It's like
oh, you gotta,
there's only so
so much
much to
you can
go
do.
around of everything.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
make your
yeah.
choices, right? You got to
Totally
make your
imagine.
choices.
Yeah.
So they'll be sitting there and they'll watch like these rancid heifers who just don't want to go anywhere. And I'll sit there and I'll explain to them what's going on, because I'm like, oh yeah, that cow's miserable and there's no way that kid's going to get her to do anything, because she's just like, "Meh, I'm done."
Yeah, thanks.
And it doesn't matter how much you push her or pull her, or try to
Yeah.
get her off balance. Nope, she's planted there. She ain't moving.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is
Well,
not the
no,
fault of the child. That is just a heifer who does not want to
right.
cooperate.
Just not having it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but
So
back to your sheep.
can I ask you a question really quick?
Yeah.
So you're a fifth generation, you said, right? Farm.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
what kind of farm did you grow up on? What kind of
So
animals?
I grew up on a mixed vegetable and fruit and
Oh,
replacement
okay.
heifer farm. So yeah,
Oh,
we
hey.
had like a little bit of everything, but then we dairy farmed in New York for 4 years. So
Oh,
I've got the
wow.
dairy background.
Oh, my
And then
goodness.
I've worked on several horse farms, including an Arabian
Oh,
breeding, like stallion type
oh,
operation.
cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've done a lot of different types of agriculture, and then I was an ag
Yeah, sounds
extension
like
agent.
it.
So I mean, I
Oh,
love
cool.
agriculture. I love everything about it. And I farmed full time with my parents for quite a while.
Okay.
But then, kids, divorce,
Wow.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
So anyway,
all of it. Yeah.
yes, yes. So thank you for
Wow. Very
asking.
cool. Yeah. So good to know. Yeah. Really interesting.
So this is why I know a little bit about almost every type of agriculture, and then there is like a ton that I'm like, oh, I don't know, so I can ask
Learning new.
lots of
Yeah.
questions because I'm like, oh, I'm curious.
How
Tell me more.
fun. What a
So,
cool occupation. It's so exciting that you started this. I'm sure
oh,
it just
thank
I'm
you.
sure it's just so interesting to, yeah, hear all of everybody's different backgrounds and what they're doing. And I've seen a little bit of that. I started doing some shearing services because I am
Oh,
finding that I love that. I love shearing. It's not something a lot of people can do. You need, the muscle strength and then to be able to, manage the sheep and hold the sheep correctly it's a kind of a dying skill. There are not a lot of people that
hmm.
can do that. So I've started going to different farms and sharing for people. And it's so fun, like, and fascinating to hear people's stories and like how they got started. And it's something new that I'm finding I really love. So I'm
It is.
excited to have found you and I'm gonna start listening to your podcast and hearing other people's stories too, because there's just so much to learn. There's so much out there. My
It
goodness.
really is, and I'll tell you, 100 years ago, before I did what I'm doing now, I was for a short period of time, I was one of those ag statistics enumerators. So I was one of the
Yeah.
obnoxious people who would call
Yes.
you up and be like, "I want
You're
to know
yes.
how many sheep you had this year," and yeah, and you're all like, "I'm not
Every
answering
year.
the
Yeah.
phone. I'm not." I hated the job. I absolutely hated the job because I knew that every single farmer who saw me was like, "You are the bane of my existence," and I got it because having been on the other side, I was always the farmer who was like,
Oh,
"Oh, what do you
totally.
care how many
Yeah.
pounds of carrots we grew this year? Like, what does it matter to you?" But it does.
Right.
I will
Oh,
make a plug. It really does matter, especially when we
yeah.
finally get back to actually funding agriculture again. Th
That's
this
what I've
this
heard.
administration is a little screwy, but
Yeah.
back when we actually are putting money
Yeah.
where money is supposed to be going, knowing what people are growing is actually really important. But
Okay. Yeah.
anyway, but my
See, I
favorite part of the job was meeting all the different farmers. And every time I left a farm, I'd be like, I need to write their story because I am by training a writer. And so I was like, I need to write their stories.
okay.
And what ended up
Yeah.
happening was I didn't have time to write everybody's stories. But then
Right.
podcasting became a thing and I became a consultant and I was like, this would be awesome. So I get to do the storytelling, but I actually let you guys tell
Yes.
the story and it's so much faster and it
Oh,
lasts forever and
yeah.
we get your voices.
Yes.
So
Digital. Yeah.
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 So talk to me about your shearing. Like I want to hear about your shearing.
Oh, okay. So, I guess I've been shearing sheep since I was 15. So again, it's just kind of a self-taught. I did not go to shearing school. That's what a lot of people ask. Did you go
And
to
there
shearing
is a
school?
shearing
No.
school, huh? There
Just,
is like
um,
people go
yeah,
to shearing school.
yeah, they
Okay.
go to shearing school. Yeah, there is such a thing. Maybe one of these days I would go for fun. There's always more you can learn, of course. And I wouldn't say I'm professional. Like I'm not one of those people that you'll see them rah, 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 just shear the sheep in like 10 seconds. It takes me right now, it's taking me like 10 to 15 minutes per sheep. So I'm
Okay.
improving. It used to take me 20 to 30 minutes. So,
Right.
but doing my own every year, I have been shearing like 20 to 40, sometimes even more than that. There was a time when I had like 100 sheep.
Oh
Um,
wow.
but most of the time, most years, I'm doing 20 to 40 and I'm shearing them all myself. And I try to get them done in January. And then I'll have February, March, and April open for clients. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm really loving that. I have
And you
not
are
done any.
getting paid well for that, I'm hoping. This is
Yeah,
one
yes.
of my I'm big into the sustainability for farmers and going back to
Yeah.
your dad and the is this business paying?
Yes.
I always want farmers to get paid well for what they're doing. And so
Oh, yeah.
like sharing is a very important service that you're providing
Yes.
for them. So,
I feel like, so my prices comparatively, I have priced myself a little bit higher than some of the professional shearers just for that reason. Like I know what it's worth to me to,
Mm,
first of all, drive to these places. I'm taking out so many hours of my day driving there and driving back and being away from my kids. Like that's my most important thing is just taking care of my kids and being with my kids. And I'm homeschooling and all of that. So if I'm leaving the farm and leaving my duties here to go do that, it's got to be worth it.
right.
Um, and people are willing to pay it. And actually, I found so I have higher cost, but I'm more flexible, so I can show up. A lot of the professional shearers are like, okay, I have, you know, 3 dates open in March, and you can pick one. Or if you have a really small flock, they'll be like, yeah, actually, I don't really have time for that, or I'm not really going to be able to do that.
Right.
So many of these families have said, yeah, I've called around and nobody wanted to do it because I just have a small flock and
Right.
it was yeah, not worth it to them. And then I found people are tipping me like way above and beyond. So I already had my price set and then they're adding on to that. They're like, yeah, hey, it's 20%. Like I just want you to have it. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Well,
So it's
and
worked out.
again, like if you go and get your hair done, which
Yeah.
I do incredibly infrequently, like once a year if I'm on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's usually just
Same.
cut it. Do whatever you need to do. Like cut it.
Yeah. Make it look good.
Well, usually
I'm
about the
opposite.
time
That's
that
what
I'm
I
like
think.
having another midlife crisis, I'll go and I'll be
Yeah.
like, cut it all off. And then I've got like 2 years where it can just grow and go crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
But anyway, but you're expected to tip. Like that's, there's
Yes.
service industries, your waitresses, you're expected to tip. It's
Right.
a part of it. And it's so interesting to me. I hadn't thought about this until just now, but it's so interesting to me that in farm services, we don't think about tipping on a general basis
Mhm.
at all. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
it's part of the culture, and maybe it is in
Yeah.
shearing more than other services, but
Yeah.
kind of should be. Like I think it's
Yeah.
something that we should be thinking about our service providers and
Yeah.
offering that,
That's a really good
just
point. Yeah, if you're happy with the service and people have been, good to you and I feel like so many small farmers, what they're doing is their passion and they're going above and beyond to, meet your needs as far as feeding, your family with healthy vegetables, food, whatever. Um, yeah, it should be something you factor in when you go to a farmer's market or something and buy directly from the farmer. It's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah. Hadn't considered it a whole lot, but yeah. So I think that's really inspiring because I think a lot of farmers have these kinds of secondary skills, so to speak, and they
Yeah.
don't value them as another
Mhm.
income stream because that is one of the things like farming can be tough to make the bottom line stay in the black. And so
Mhm.
we're often looking at other ways of, you know, augmenting our income and that kind of contracting services is something that if
Yeah.
you like doing it, if you have the capacity, I mean, there's all those ifs,
Right. Yeah.
it's kind of like being a podcast host. Like if you don't like
Yeah.
talking to people, probably
Maybe not a good
interviewing is
idea.
not a great
Right.
option for you. I don't know, like
Right.
maybe not. But if it's
Yeah.
something that fits in with who you are and what you enjoy doing, and like you
Yeah.
said, you're finding that you really enjoy the sharing. And what is it about the
Yeah.
sharing that you enjoy so much?
I don't know. I think for one, it's just something I don't know. I feel like I was made for it. Like I used to not love my body so much because I am kind of a more muscular woman. I used to just wish that I was like every young girl, skinny and just didn't have these big old guns.
Hmm.
But I'm just finding like this is the way God made me. Like I'm meant for this kind of work and it makes me feel good when I do it. Um, so I think that's part of it, just like and then of course I love sheep, so I love seeing people's flocks and like looking at all the different breeds. I've done some South Downs and Valet,
Oh,
the new, yeah, black nose breed with the beautiful horns. It's kind of giving me like, because I have only had a few different breeds of sheep, I'm getting to see like what works for people as far as their breeds and the pros and cons of the different sheep breeds. It's just been kind of fun to learn a
yeah.
little bit more.
Do you notice a
Um,
difference in the quality? I mean, assuming that this is a yes, but so maybe the better question to be would be, what are some of the differences in the quality and type of the wool that you see from some of these different breeds of sheep? The
So
best.
it's all over the place. I mean, um, so far all the flocks that I've been to have been really healthy sheep. So that's the biggest factor. Like nutrition plays in so much to wool quality, and if they're not getting the minerals and everything they need, then they'll have wool break, or um, if they're wormy, it can be kind of wiry. The wool can be kind of wiry and just not the best. So far, I've found all of the fleeces have been pretty nice, and people are able to utilize those fleeces because it's people that really care about their animals and take great care of them. Um, but yeah, I shore some, is it soy or soy? It's SOAY sheep.
Okay.
And they're like a heritage breed and they're real small, and a little bit feral. And they were interesting because they have that like undercoat. Um, so they have like two layers kind of wool, and you're supposed to shear them before that breaks. So that was just kind of an interesting one. And their wool was different. It was real like dense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the South Downs, I always like shearing them. Then there's the difference of like really thick lanolin. Like some sheep produce more lanolin than others.
Right.
So I don't love shearing sheep that have super thick a lot of lanolin because it really
Yeah.
gums up your
Greasy.
shears. With
I
fleece,
was gonna guess that that's what would happen.
yeah, yeah, they get really gummy and yeah, really fast or dirty if the sheep have a lot of dirt in them. It dulls your blades pretty quickly, so not my favorite, but so far I've been pretty surprised, pretty pleasantly surprised, I should say. Um, I guess probably because I'm servicing smaller farms and it's different, how people manage small flocks versus hundreds.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
But I think that those are really, really interesting observations. And just thinking about the wool quality and how it's an indicator of, sheep health even. Like I
Hmm.
hadn't really considered that a whole lot. And now that I realize that I hadn't considered it, I was like, well, that's kind of dumb because, you can look at your own hair
Yeah,
and you can say, oh, well, you don't have enough biotin in your diet
yeah,
or all that kind of stuff. And so it really does make
totally.
sense. But it's really, really interesting that
Yeah.
you can kind of keep an eye on your flock health also
Hmm.
by the wool. And do you
Totally.
find that most of the people that you work with are utilizing the wool, or do you sometimes take some of their wool off their hands? Because I know some people, it's like they don't want to deal with the wool and there isn't really a market for it. So what is the wool market
Right.
like where you are?
So it's it's not great as probably is everywhere. There are some programs, some exciting sounding programs that are starting up, that people are trying, um, buying up local wool and then turning it into either pellets or yarn or something of that sort.
Yeah.
I just stumbled upon someone that's doing that, I think in Bellevue, Washington, and paying farmers, a really good price for their fleece
Yeah.
raw, and then you get more money based on what that fleece was turned into. If it was turned into yarn, you might get a little bit more back than if it was just pelletized and turned into like garden
Yeah.
mulch or fertilizer or air. I think it aerates the soil. But yeah, I so far I have kept only a couple of fleeces, because I only have a couple of specific things that I do with the wool and I need it to be pretty clean for that. I'm not super interested in like picking through and getting
Right.
all the hay out and all that. But for the most part, the fleeces have been nice enough that the owners are want to keep those fleeces and plan to use
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So even like recently, I shore a few sheep for a gal who lives in an apartment, and she stables her sheep at another
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm gonna take all this wool home to my apartment bathtub and I'm gonna start cleaning it. And I'm like, sweet. Like, where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, I was thinking about that when you were talking about the groups that are buying up the wool. It made me think of here in Rhode Island, we've had this Rhody Warm cooperative, and that's
Oh.
exactly what they started doing because in Rhode Island, we have this interesting situation that we have a lot of beginning small farmers. We have a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
But because
Mm-hmm.
they're beginning small farmers, they all have small farms, which means small
Mm-hmm.
outputs. And so when it was coming to things like the sheep, none of the flocks were really big enough to be able to do a whole lot with their wool. And so, wool would end up being stashed in they'd put the fleeces in the barns and they'd just be
Yeah.
sitting there and they wouldn't be used.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody was like,
Yeah.
we should be able
Sit
to
there
do
to
something
rot.
with this. So they
Yeah. And
formed
what
a
a valuable
cooperative.
resource.
That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. So they formed a cooperative and they would have an annual fleece gathering day and they would have like
Wow.
quality control type stuff. I was never there for that, but they would come in, they'd bring all the wool together and then they shipped it off together and they ended up
Mm.
making them into blankets, all different sizes
Oh,
of blankets, and then they
wow.
were able to command like boku bucks for them because they were I've
Wow.
got two actually. And then they
Ew.
named the patterns after different cities and towns and stuff. Really
Wow.
cool, really cool.
How awesome.
So if you're ever
Wow.
interested, like that's a place to kind of
Yeah.
check out what they did because
Yeah.
it was a really powerful way of empowering the farmers to be able to do stuff that they couldn't do on their own. And
Yeah.
those blankets were like they're super super popular. And like I said, I've got two.
Wow.
I've got one that was given to me as a wedding gift back in
Oh.
2009 and one of them that I bought as it's like a lap robe and they're both
Oh my
literally on my
goodness.
bed right now. So anyway,
Wow. That
so
is
very
so
cool.
cool.
So what
I
are you
love
doing
that.
with your wool? You said
So,
you had a small amount of stuff that you did with yours. So what do you do with yours?
yeah. So I have been making dryer balls for one and selling the dryer balls.
Ah,
Um, so they're a water felted product. And then I lately have been making rugs. So they're like you call them no-kill sheepskin rugs. So it's like just a felted rug that looks like a sheepskin. So it's
yeah.
got like the your raw fiber on one side and then the felted mat on the underside. Sorry, someone's knocking at my door. I might need to go
Yeah,
check
no, go
that. Is
ahead. Go
that
ahead.
okay? Sorry. So my
I
mother is.
was shamelessly listening in. Did I hear
Do
that
you hear
there's a
what's happening?
did I hear there's a cow calving?
Yes. So we have beef cattle also. We have Galloways and Dexters. And I guess there's a little Dexter first time mom heifer down there that has, hooves sticking out. She's
So,
calving. And my mother-in-law, she walks every day down the road and I think she's worried. She's not sure like if it needs help or yeah. So I don't know if
do you need
I
to go
need to
do you need to go check on the calf?
I probably should.
Yeah,
Could I do
absolutely.
that? Would that be okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This will be great because then you can come back and you can give us an update about it. Okay, so you just got back. So tell me about the
Yeah.
calf.
Okay. Yeah. So by the time we got down there, the mama had already had the calf and was there, licking her off and whatnot. It was super cool though. She was surrounded by all of her young, so this was a heifer, like a young, probably 2-year-old Dexter heifer, Dexter cross. And she was surrounded by like all of her, I don't know if you'd call them classmates, probably all of her half
Yeah, herd
siblings,
mates. Yeah.
yearly or 2-year-olds, which is so sweet. Like the calf was on the ground and they were all like sniffing around. And
Oh,
so everything is good. Everything is fine,
oh, I just
thankfully.
love it.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked. I'm so glad, so relieved. Like we haven't had to pull a calf in forever, but it would be today, I have to go down
It
there and
would be, and pulling, I
oh,
gotta say, like pulling a calf is never fun. And so let me, since we just go where the spirit takes us here. So when we were dairy farming, well, I'll back up a little. When we were raising replacement heifers, we
Sound effect.
um we would breed our Holsteins. We had Holsteins, and we would always breed them to like a Jersey bull
Oh
because
yeah.
for this very reason, because we wanted the first calf, even if it, was a throwaway calf or whatever, we wanted it to be a nice, small, easy birth so that the mom didn't end up with trouble. And so
Yes.
when I was a kid, we didn't have to do a whole lot of pulling very often because we had Holsteins that were, and when we were raising replacement heifers, we didn't actually do a whole lot of like they weren't breeding, they weren't giving birth at our place. End up,
Okay.
they'd end up
You
giving
were
birth.
raising, okay, just the
They'd
couple cats.
freshen at like a dairy farm because we would just raise them up, get them bred, and then sell them off to
Oh,
dairy.
nice.
But we had two milk cows that we kept, and one was a Jersey cross and one was a Holstein. And we would always breed them with our Jersey bull because we wanted, again, the small calves.
Yeah.
So we didn't do a lot of pulling until we moved to New York and we dairy farmed there. And there we bought the herd, and they had this ginormous Holstein bull that they bred. It was like a home raised bull, and he was huge, and he
Huge.
threw the biggest calves. And we had more
Yikes.
trouble that first year with those calves that were coming out
Oh,
because they were just so huge. Like we had
too
one that was
big.
so big, it was breech. We
Oh,
couldn't get it out. And like talking about
ew.
like, is it still alive? Do we end up having to
Yes.
like dismember it? I mean, horrible,
Yes. All the
horrible
horrible
things.
things.
So, you don't want any of those things. So
Right.
glad that this was not that.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
just natural doing what they're supposed to do. And so
Yes.
so you seem to have pretty good luck. You said refresh me again on refresh me again on the breeds that you tend to have on your place. You said
Yeah. So,
Galloways and
yeah. So I have some horror stories also with our beginning cow breeding as we were starting to get into this. Um, we always wanted Dexters. We had read that they were a good like multi-purpose
yep.
breed, but we started with a Jersey, and a Jersey was our wedding gift. So um, we had a fund on our wedding registry that was for the dairy cow.
Of course you did. I love
So
that. That's beautiful.
our first cow was a Jersey, sweet Jersey. Um, but she was already bred to a Angus.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I think she was not a heifer. So this was her second calving, maybe, or it could have even been third. I forget now. So it wasn't like
No.
a first timer situation. But that first calf, and this is why my poor mother-in-law, she was here. She's like, I still have flashbacks to, Rosie and her calf, and I should have let you know sooner, and I should have pulled her sooner, and
Oh,
because she still is like, yeah, PTSD, I guess.
oh.
But this
Yeah,
calf, we
no,
didn't know what we were
there are some
doing.
of those things that they stick with you. I mean, that one calf that, I mean,
Yeah,
just talking about
it,
having to do that is still traumatizing. So no,
yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it just about made me cry because I'm like, that is not your fault. Like that was not your fault at all. Like
No.
none of us knew what we were supposed to do. We watched her for a little bit, but we didn't know how long she had been. The head was out, I think, and the hooves.
Okay.
And so we didn't pull her as quickly as we probably should have, and the calf ended up not surviving.
Hmm.
Um, so that was a really sad kind of beginning. And the Angus just they have big heads.
I do.
So I think that was part of the problem. It was a big calf with a big head. And then we had a young Dexter, a couple years later that we had raised, and she was just my favorite. Like she was just the sweetest cow, but she was naughty and she jumped over the fence somehow with the neighbors and got in with their Angus bull.
Oh no, those stupid Angus.
Too young. She was,
No,
yeah,
no
she was
offense to
small.
anybody out there who's growing Angus.
Right, right.
We
I
love
know, but
Anguses. We love them
yeah,
here. But not when you're breeding
So,
little Dexters, like, and they're
yes,
supposed to be so good. Like my uncle had Dexters, and they were just he was like, you never have to pull a calf.
yeah,
They're really
yeah.
supposed to be good, but probably again not with an Angus bull. How did that
Yeah,
end up?
that was another. She started calving out on pasture way out in the field, and I was home alone with my daughter was a baby at that point. Oh, and I had a young gal with me that was kind of like shadowing me. She was kind of learning farming. So little
Oh
bit
no.
traumatic for her because it's like, oh, this is, getting right down to the worst parts in farming that day.
Yeah.
But we ended up, I think if I remember correctly, we used our four-wheeler and got the calf legs hooked up to the four-wheeler and just used that gentle like
Oh,
um
it was that bad.
traction, to kind of
Ugh.
pull that calf. And he ended up surviving the calf. We named him Dangus. He was like, oh dang. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
he grew
heard
up
that.
to be, yeah, he grew up to be fine. Yeah, he was a great cow. And my heifer was fine too, my
Oh, good.
little Dexter. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that
they're
one ended
tough.
okay,
They're
but
tough little cows, those Dexters, and sweet from
hmm
what my uncle says.
yes,
Like, I haven't worked with them a lot, but they're cute. Like, anyway.
yeah. Yeah, it can really depend. Like we've had some that we call ninjas because they're just like wild. And my husband tells this story all the time about this one Dexter that came running by him and she was just angry. So as she was coming by him, she kicked like for his head and like her whole body twist, like she jumped her
Oh
whole
yeah,
body up in the air and like,
corkscrewed. Yeah.
yeah. And he was taken by surprise because he was like, Dexters are supposed to be really calm and sweet. And that one, that one wasn't,
He
but
was not so much.
most of them are great.
Yeah. Oh man.
Mm.
Oh, so exciting. So I'm gonna, since you've got kids around, we've talked about your kids. So let's talk about how you balance, because you did say earlier that you are not only doing the home farm, which we just saw because you had to go do the home farm thing, and you've got little ones, and you've got your shearing business, which is granted seasonal, but still, and
Yeah,
you're homeschooling. So talk to me about how you mix together all of that, because that is a really common type scenario for us farm women. I use us.
yeah. Gosh, I am not doing any of it well, probably, so I'm probably not the right person to ask about
Oh
this
no,
because,
no.
so much of it is just like living in the moment and just trying to, I don't know. I am not a very good, I'm not very type A, so I'm not very good with like having a schedule and like we do this at this time and that at that time. And it's all just kind of all over the place, fitting in what we can when we can and being super flexible to like,
Yep.
oh, there's a calf being born, so I guess we're not doing whatever today.
Yeah.
And you know what? It all works out. I feel like I guess I was also homeschooled, so I'm not okay. So I think the biggest fear, especially for moms, is just that you're doing everything right for your kids and that they're going to be okay. Um, and you're always thinking about that. Good moms are always, worrying, "Hey, are they getting enough? Are they getting what they need? Are they up to grade level? Are they, behind?" And
They're
um
always sure that they're not doing enough. I feel
yes,
like a good mom is usually, what I've noticed is that the moms who are good moms are always feeling a little bit like, I could be doing this better, because
yes,
we hold ourselves to a
we always,
standard that's just not,
yeah,
first of all, it's not realistic, but
right,
we always want to be doing a little bit more, a little bit better. I agree.
right. Yeah, and I don't know, you hear so much, everybody around you. I think to make themselves feel better, they're always talking about, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're in that activity and we're in this activity and all of it. And it just can get overwhelming and thinking like, oh no, my kid is not in, gymnastics, or my kid is not doing sports, or my kid is not, are they going to be okay?
Yeah.
Um, but there's so much value to so many different things. And I just think, especially with homeschooling, you have such a huge opportunity to really see who your child is and what they like to do. And you don't necessarily have to force them into everything. There's of course always value to making them do things they don't love. That's always important.
Yeah.
And not just letting them do, whatever they want to all day. Um, but you don't have to do everything. I feel like that's my main takeaway is they're going to be okay if you're, focus on the really important things for, you know, getting your kid off to a really good start as far as language arts and math and all of
Yeah.
that. Um, and then
Equipping them
just,
to learn. I think that one of the
yes,
like actually teaching them how to learn. That's, you know,
yes,
so that and I think exposing them to as many different perspectives as they can. And
yes,
you don't have to
sure.
do like that doesn't have to cost money. That like that can be as
Hmm.
simple as, watching a YouTube on a different
Yeah,
culture or, like there are all kinds
yeah,
of ways in our time where we can expose them to stuff that's not like
yeah.
just what's there. But I do feel like
Broadening
those
their, yeah.
like giving them
Somebody
those
was,
skills and critical thinking and to be able to sit there
hmm
and say, all right, well, this piece of information is telling me this. Who is giving
hmm
this information? Like what
hmm
is their agenda? Because everybody has an agenda.
hmm
And it
Yep.
doesn't mean it's a bad agenda. It just means it's an agenda. And
There
am I
is, yeah.
teaching my kids to be able to sift out what is true versus what is
Hmm.
not true? And especially in this day of AI
Yeah.
and rampant social media, ironically, as I'm like
Yeah.
probably part of the social media world, where anybody with a microphone can tell you something. And
Right.
that's
Yes.
great.
It's an overload of information.
It is the
Hmm
best of times, worst of times, because like on one
hmm
hand, it's so amazing that we can hear from so many people literally from around the world. That is amazing. And it means that we have to be even more aware of understanding what the biases are and
Yeah.
equipping our kids to do that, being able to
hmm
read, do math, understand
hmm
science, and be curious. Like to be
Yes.
curious, well, why is this person saying that? Why do they live this way? As opposed to, oh, they're bad because they're different. Why
Yeah.
are they like
Exactly.
like we're all people? So what is
Yes.
it that makes people people? That you've hit one of
Yeah.
my
I love
favorites.
it. I love it. You're so similar to me in the way you like see the world and like, I don't know, the philosophy side of things. You just want to know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love
just
it.
that whole idea of just being curious because I find
Hmm
that, the more different people I meet and am exposed to, first of all, the kinder I become. Like my heart
Yeah.
softens because my
Yeah.
heart says, "Oh, wow, I never thought about that." Like
Yeah.
I lived in my little world and I understood things like this, but
Yeah.
oh, if I had to go through that, oh, I might have a different perspective. And that right
Yeah.
there, that humility has been one of the greatest gifts that I could possibly
hmm
have received. And it is one of the things I want to pass on to my children because I have very strong
hmm
values, very, very clear
So
cut
good.
values that I'm like, no, this is what I
Yeah.
believe. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't matter if people agree with our beliefs or not. They are
hmm
people. And our
Yeah.
primary job is to love them and to care for them. And anything else
Right.
is not okay. Like we've got to figure
Um,
out how to take care of each other. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's
So,
so
so how
sweet.
do you do that? So how do you balance all that? Because I mean, those are high expectations. And how many kids do you have?
So I have two right now. So Marilyn is just turning 9 in a couple of days, and Charlie is almost 1. He'll be
Oh,
1 May 13th.
oh, so that's kind of like
Um,
raising two only children at the
big age
same
gap.
time. Oh, that's a
Yeah,
tricky one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a tricky age gap.
So yeah. So that's another thing we do. We have a big homeschool co-op
Yep.
for that I shouldn't say I started it. Me and a bunch of other friends started this co-op because of the only child situation. I was really worried about her getting, having kind of some classroom structure type of
Kudos for you. Yeah.
experiences and learning from other moms or other teachers.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, just the social aspect. So we've got that going on also. And then, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess we have stuff going on every day, but it just always works out that we're able to fit in what's important to us. And we don't do sports. That's one thing that I can't really imagine adding into my life right now that most of our friends do. Like all their kids are doing all the different sports, but
Yeah.
Marilyn's never been interested in it. And my husband and I are just not super excited about it, I guess. So Charlie might be, and we might have to go that route with him. But
Right?
so far, we haven't really, yeah, had to go down that road too much. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then, they're just along for the ride so much of the time. Like with my shearing job, what I've been doing is sometimes a friend will watch the kiddos and babysit if it's going to be a really long day. I have a big job. Um, but if it's a smaller job, I'm doing, 5 to 6 sheep, then often I will bring them with me and I pay my daughter to babysit for me, Charlie. And then we're both
Okay.
like getting something out of it. We're both learning and, you know, making some money.
So,
So
so
she
you know,
likes that situation.
I'm gonna give you huge props for that right there because paying your child to babysit, I think their sibling, I think there's something really beautiful about that. And I'll tell you why. Um, being an oldest child, there is
Same.
see, we firstborns, I tell you.
We get it.
We get the fact that there's like this expectation that you're going to help take care of the kids, the younger
Right.
ones. And we were
Hmm.
tight. Like my brother was only 15 months younger than I, and my sister was only 30 months younger than I. Um,
Hmm.
but even with that closeness, like my sister often will be like, "Well, I remember you reading stories to me all the time,
Oh.
but not so much mom and dad." And it was because I was really precocious. I
Oh.
read early. I loved to read. But some of
Oh,
those
yeah.
things that it was just like, oh well, if Kristen's already doing that, then we don't have to worry about it. And reading to your
Mhm.
kids was not a thing in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
Just keeping them alive
I mean,
was
oh,
the
it's the
premise.
thing. Okay.
Well, it
Uh,
wasn't, I mean,
who
it's not
knew?
like it wasn't a thing, but it wasn't one of those things like if you're not reading to your kids, you're a bad mom. It,
Right.
like that.
Oh yeah, that's so like been hammered into my generation. Like, oh, you read in the morning, you read in the night, you read all day, you go to the library. Like, yeah,
Yes,
I
yes. If
know.
you're not doing those things, you are definitely a bad parent. And so
Yeah,
we have a lot of expectations. This generation of parents are like,
yeah.
but
Ah.
but I think there is a tendency for parents to kind of I'm going to be cautious about how I phrase this, take advantage of their older children when they have younger children. And
Yeah,
some of that working together is family. Like some of that is
right.
just like, hey, me, I would not have ever expected my parents to pay me to read to my sister because that's just part of being a sister. Like that's
Right. Part
family,
of it.
part of
Yeah.
family. But
Yeah.
especially when you've got an 8-year age difference,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really beautiful that you are letting your older daughter know that this is, first of all, childcare is work. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you're telling her. You are not telling
Mm-hmm.
her that, oh, this is just a woman's expectation that we just
Yeah.
take care of kids and we don't get any remuneration for it because we're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
just breed and take care of kids. No, you're saying
Mm-hmm.
this is a real job. Parenting is a job. Childcare is a
Mm-hmm.
job. And so
Right.
you're giving a value to that job and
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, I appreciate that you're doing something that is not your job. Because
Yes.
as a mom, I would never expect anybody to pay me to watch my child because
Right.
I'm their mom. I'm
Right.
supposed to take care of my child.
Yes.
But that
Yeah.
child is not your child's child. So it is
Right.
not her job to watch.
Responsibility. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Right.
so by paying her, you are both saying this is a job that counts and has
Mm-hmm.
a number, like a
Value.
number value
Mm-hmm.
to it.
Hmm.
And this is something you're doing that is above and beyond your family
Yes.
type responsibility. And I just really want to endorse that. And this is where my like newly emerged feminism is coming out, I guess. But I think that those messages are super, super valuable for this generation. And
Mhm.
I'm so, so glad to hear that you do that because I wouldn't have necessarily thought it was bad not to pay her, but I think the fact that you
Yeah,
are paying her, I think that speaks so loudly, and that is a really beautiful example that you're setting her. I think you're really
yeah,
preparing her in ways that um, are going to benefit her
yeah.
throughout her
I
life.
yeah. I just yeah. I want her to know that her work is valuable, that her contribution is, and that yeah, this is life. Like you should get a good return for your time on things. No matter what it is, even if it is family, like, you
Yeah,
know, learn to value that not just for herself, but also for others. Like, don't just expect that you can, drop your kids off and just leave them with people or let someone else, take your responsibilities. So
right.
it's
And if you are like
training.
if you are in a situation where people are doing that for you, like when my kids were young, we had a lot going on, and there was a lot of I need childcare because I was divorced and I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and so like I had to figure out a way to make a living. So my kids
Mhm.
spent time going to like a friend of ours and
Yeah.
who are like their second grandparents or third grandparents.
Oh,
And oh,
yes.
love them. And I could never pay them for that, but I always
Yeah.
was aware of the value of what they were providing. And I
Yes.
was always like so conscientious about being
Yeah.
like so thankful because that is not their responsibility. It is a gift that
Yeah.
they give, and we want to have that. And I see that that's another thing that you're showing her is that you are valuing her. And
Yeah.
so that there's so much
Yeah.
there that's beautiful. And I'm looking at the clock, and I know we took a little bit of time off
Oh,
to take care of the cow, but I totally
yeah.
I don't
Sorry
want to
about
take all
that.
no, 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 no. I'm aware that we took a break and then we restarted. So in my brain, I was like, oh, I got another hour. And
Yes, more time. Yeah.
I don't have another hour. It's okay. No,
Oh.
yeah. So I would love to talk to you for hours and hours. What
Oh.
I am going to do though is I'm going to kind of wrap us up with my signature
Okay.
question that I ask all of my farmers before they leave. And that is, if you had one piece of advice that you thought every farmer should have, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. I guess that's funny. We've already been kind of talking about this, but valuing yourself first. Thinking about, okay, so I'm not going to say thinking about yourself first. That's not what I'm trying to say, but don't undervalue what you can contribute. Whether you are like a first time, farmer, you're just learning, just beginning, or, you know, whether you're maybe you've been doing this for a lot of years. Like it took me, I think I was telling you the other day, it took me so many years to really understand that I have a lot to share and a lot to, that could be of value to other people. And not being shy to, share it. But I think there can come a time where, like now, so I have 20 years of experience with dairy sheep, and I'm telling people that I have all this experience, this hands-on experience, and I don't want that to be intimidating either, to make people who have less experience feel like, you don't have anything of value to share, to bring to the table, because I'm finding that is so not true. Everybody has like a passion or something that they bring to the table that really contributes and helps, you know,
In a different
us.
way?
So yeah, in a different way. So
Yeah.
that's a really probably a longer answer than you'd want, but
No, no.
I just been thinking about that a lot because I've been talking to a lot of different sheep producers lately and just learning so much myself from even people who are just starting out, and a lot about like the more holistic type of approach
Yeah.
um, for feeding and all, deworming and all of it. And I'm just like, wow, I never, knew that. Because a lot of times people like us who've been in this a long time, you can get kind of stuck in your ways, and you kind of learned your facts way back then. And you just, I don't know, you just live and you just, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Like,
I love that. I totally love that because I think again that goes back to what we were talking about spending time with people who are different from ourselves and
mhm,
just the benefit that that can have. And that means different in age, different in experience, different in gender, different in like
Yes.
all of that stuff, like background,
Yeah.
continuing farmers versus brand new farmers versus,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I feel like it's so valuable. Thank
So
you,
true.
Lydia. I love that
Yeah,
message. And
absolutely.
yeah, I look forward
You.
to I look forward to having you on again and
Aw,
chatting in the future
that would
about
be fun.
where you've gone as your little
But
one grows and all that. And I want to thank all of you out there for joining us, and we will see you next time on Food, Flowers, and Fun. Bye.
it's good.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmers calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.